This is W0BNC Net Control for tonight's NC-ARC TechNet. When checking in, please give your call sign slowly, first alphabetically, then again using the ITU phonetic alphabet along with your name and location. When checking in, please state if you will have a topic that you would like to discuss. I will start by taking check-ins from call suffixes alpha through Mike. Alpha through Mike, call now.
Whiskey 0, Lima, Echo, India, W0LEI, Chad, and Stout.
This is N0EMP, November 0, Echo, Mike, Papa, Greg, Mobile, with Debbie, K0DBE, Kilo 0, Delta Bravo, Echo.
Net would like to welcome W0LEI, N0EMP, and K0DBE. Continue taking check-ins from call suffixes alpha through Mike.
KF0GQH, Kent in Wellington, with KF0LAU, Kilo Foxtrot 0, Lima Alpha Uniform, Lorraine in Wellington.
This is KF0GQI, Kilo Foxtrot 0, Golf Quebec, India, Doc in Pierce.
Net welcomes KF0LAU, KF0GQH, and KF0GQI, sequential. We'll continue taking call suffixes alpha through Mike.
Whiskey 0, Charlie Whiskey Alpha, correction, W0CWA. Again, Whiskey 0, Charlie Whiskey Alpha, Chris, Mobile in Loveland.
0EXV, Kilo Delta 0, Echo X-Ray Victor, Ryan Greeley.
Alpha Echo 0, Charlie Foxtrot, AE0CF, Ben Fort Collins.
And that welcomes W0CWA, KD0EXP, and AE0CF. Any more alpha through Mike?
This is K0AZA, Kilo 0 Alpha Zulu Alpha, Ron in Fort Collins. W2MIC, Whiskey 2, Mike, India, Charlie, Mark, Loveland. Sorry about the double.
No problem, at least I know who it was now. Net welcomes AE0CF, K0AZA, and W2MIC. We'll go ahead and open it up to all call suffixes alpha through Zulu. Anybody and everybody call now.
This is KD0TYU, Kilo Delta 0 Tango Yankee Uniform, Joe in Loveland, and I do have a topic, or a announcement.
This is KB0YDN, Kilo Bravo 0, Yankee Delta November, Eric, Pinewood Lake.
W5VV, Whiskey 5 Victor Victor, Bill in Livermore.
Net welcomes KD0TYU with an announcement, KB0YDN, and W5VV. Any other check-ins, alpha through Zulu?
U0RCR, Whiskey 0 Romeo Charlie Romeo, Pete, Pinewood Reservoir.
KA2UC, Kilo Alpha 2 Alpha United Zulu, Milliken.
Okay, I have W0RCR and KA2AUZ, and then there was a double. If I did not call your call sign, come back with it, please.
This is Kilo 0, Lima Echo Echo, K0LEE, Lee in Greeley.
K0HI, Bob in Greeley.
K0LEE, thank you, Lee, and K0HI. Any other check-ins alpha through Zulu?
This is November 5, November Yankee Victor, N5 NYV, Fort Collins, no traffic.
This is
N5 NYV. Any other check-ins before we get started?
This is K5SFV, Kilowatt 5, Sierra Foxtrot Victoria, Stephanie, Fort Collins.
Kilo Lima 2, Quebec, Oscar. KL2QO, Dusty in Louisville.
And that welcomes N5NYB, K2SFV, and KL2QO. Any other check-ins?
There's a correction. It's K5SFV. Thank you.
Dyslexia strikes again. Had it typed correctly, read it incorrectly. Thanks, Stephanie. Okay, hearing no other check-ins, we'll come back a second time here in a little bit, see if we have any other check-ins. But first, let's go to KD0TYU. Joe, go ahead with your announcement.
Thank you, Bob, for taking that. I do appreciate that. I might want to mention, since Brian's on, we have linked the UNC repeater to this repeater. It's going to be manually done during nets and things like that. But Brian, if you want to switch over to UNC repeater, you can definitely do that. Anybody in Greeley, or if that would be a better repeater for you, we will have that for all our different functions that we have, nets and things like that. So we just got the information on Saturday, and I was able to go ahead and do this tonight. So have fun. That's all I got. Thanks so much. KD0TYU, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Joe. And Brian, KD0EXV, if you want to switch over to that repeater and give it a try, that would be fantastic. Love to hear how it sounds.
KD0EXV.
Well, if that was it, Brian, it sounds good.
Over and there's a pretty significant hum. Can't even hear anyone speaking.
Okay, Joe, did you copy that?
Yeah, I can't see it right now, but it could be. Sorry, Brian, maybe we'll just have to do some work on it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We'll fix it. Go ahead and try that again, would you please, Brian? Yeah, it's pretty rough. I don't know if it's on his end or ours, but I did see where he actually did get into that repeater. I don't know. I'm showing it's good to go, but it's not showing that it's here. I mean, he is linked.
Yeah, it's almost like some kind of an AT, but what do I know? Back to it,
Yeah, if there's anybody else in Greeley who would like to give that a try, I don't want to take your net away or things like that. I'd like to have a couple samples to kind of go by.
No worries. This is the time to find out if we've got issues. Unfortunately, I don't have that one programmed in my radio, but if anybody else has the UNC repeater programmed in and wants to give it a try, go ahead. Okay, we'll not hear anything at the moment. If somebody wants to come up on that repeater a little later, that would be just fine. Does anyone have any topics they would like to discuss tonight? Okay, well, hearing none, and given the number of check-ins that we have, I'd like to resurrect something I tried a couple months ago, and that's what did you do on ham radio this week? Or maybe what did you do on ham radio this month? It's always interesting to hear what people are working on, and maybe or hopefully that gives people some ideas that of a project that they might want to take on and never really thought of. So I'm just going to start at the top of the list. If you have something that you've messed with, ham radio or ham radio related in the last few weeks, go ahead and give us kind of a brief overview of what you've done. If you haven't done anything, or if you just don't want to talk about it, just let me know. We'll skip on past you and go to the next. So I'm going to start up at the top with W0LEI. What have you done in ham radio in the last couple of weeks?
Well, I've got about 5 acres here. I've been mowing the yard for about a couple of weeks, along with some other things. So I really haven't done anything back to net.
Well, it seems like lately all I'm doing is either mowing or waiting for it to stop raining long enough that I can mow, and then it's taken me about 3 passes before I can get it at a reasonable height. All right, thank you, sir. Greg, N0EMP.
I haven't done anything new directly with radio, but I have changed what Linux distribution I'm using. I went from Linux Mint to the newly released Debian 12, and as part of that switch I've been figuring out successfully, finally, yesterday, how to make some various SDR, software-defined radio software that I use, how to get it to install and work in Debian. That's it for me, and NZeroEMP.
Sounds cool. And I promise one of these days when I have a free minute or two, I still want to get together with you and go over that Linux. How about Debbie? Is she playing around with anything?
No, I tried to hand her the microphone, and she just shook her head and said no.
All right. Well, we'll try again next time. KF0 LAU, how about you? What have you done lately?
KF0LAU says nope. KF0GQH here.
Hey, it was worth a try. GQH, how about Kent?
I've been putting together a to-go box, radio, tuner, all the necessary stuff for a trip down Texas-wise and try to call back here to Colorado. It's been pretty fun, and KF0LAU has been assisting.
Outstanding. Is this a HF kit or UHF, VHF, or combination?
It's an HF kit, a box to hold my tuner, my radio, all the necessary cables, and then sleeve. LAU made a sleeve for my antenna, and away we'll go.
Awesome. Since I seem to rebuild mine once every couple months because I can't decide on a configuration for it, if you wouldn't mind, post some pictures up on the NCART Facebook page. Maybe you can give me some ideas and somebody else as well.
Let me see if it works, and I'd be glad to.
Good deal. Thanks, Kent. This is W0BNC Net Control for the Colorado Amateur Radio Club Weekly TechNet. We'll move on to KF0GQI. Doc, what have you been doing lately?
Besides working for a living, I'm another one of those that's been stuck trying to keep up with the lawn mowing.
That seems to be occupying everybody's time lately, unfortunately. But as the saying goes, we need the moisture. We're going to be complaining about heat here pretty soon. Moving along, W0CWA.
W0CWA, regretfully, haven't done as much as I would like. Truth is, I'm mobile right now, Highway 34 from Loveland up to Estes Park, and I better keep my hands on the wheel and listen in on the others. So, thanks so much, W0CWA, clear.
Yeah, not a bad idea if you're heading up the canyon. All right, appreciate it. KD0EXV, Brian, you been up to anything?
And then the ARRL VHF last weekend, pretty small pickings, but also working on the HF antenna that blows all my breakers downstairs. I thought they were GFIs, but they're AFCIs, so trying to muddle through that.
Oh, I know that gets frustrating. Fortunately, I've had good luck here at this house, but the previous one not so much, and I was kind of running into the same issues you are, just interfering with everything. So hopefully you get that figured out, and I missed the VHF contest. Just got too many irons in the fire right now. But thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. Move on to Brad, AE0CF.
This has been AE0CF. Well, so got mowing like everyone around here is dealing with, but well, I was able to get my first HF contact with a bar radio, and not far away, but I think it was in Wyoming and Nebraska, another one Colorado, but that was new. AE0CF.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Brad. Ron, K0AZA, how about you?
Well, first off, I'm on the Greeley repeater, so can you hear me okay?
I have just a very light touch of white noise in the background, but 100% copy.
Okay, I've got a little bit of frying bacon on the receive side, but I'm far southwest Fort Collins, so we got a bit of distance. So I'll just stay on it if you can continue to hear me okay. A couple of things. My wife's cousin who lives in Littleton expressed an interest in ham radio, so I jumped on that one. He picked up a Baofeng out of Amazon, which I helped him set up Chirp and program so he could start listening to repeaters, and kind of mentoring him a little bit, although he doesn't need a lot of mentoring. He's a smart guy, but he's going to test for his technician license on the 26th, and he's passing the sample test with no problem, so I think he'll do fine. So it's exciting to get another family member into the ham family. I guess the other thing is I worked last Sunday the Alzheimer's ride, and that was a lot of fun, a good ride. Communications went excellently. The whole ride went excellently. The past 2 years, we've had a couple of issues that have come up with riders. We won't get into it, but this one was calm, pleasant, no issues, and ended about 2 hours early. So that was about it. K0AZA, back to net.
Oh, that's cool. Thanks, Ron. Appreciate that. Mark, W2MIC, you got anything project-wise in the works?
W2MIC, yes, indeed I do. During the Great Near Vertical Incidence Skywave experiments, in which you, Bob, participated, I loaned my ICOM IC7100 and autotuner to Bart N0NYY. He returned it, and it has been sitting on my desk waiting for me to get busy and rebuild, recalibrate, reconfigure all those words, which is done, so it goes back into my vehicle tomorrow. And separately, I had been tutoring a new ham and found him a radio and bought him an antenna as a gift for his passing his general. And about a year later now, he decided he's not going to pursue HF, so he gave all his equipment back to me, or to me. So suddenly, in my hot little hands, I have an end-fed antenna designed and built by our very own Jim Dixon, KA6ETE, which Jim tells me will do 6 through 80 inclusive, with an SWR of 3 or less, mostly less. And I have coax in my hand. I'm going up on the roof tomorrow to lay it out along the apex of the roof and take up my rig expert and 50 feet of coax to use as a cart voice, basically, and see what I can do to tune the antenna, meaning adjust its length, and then bring it in and hook it up to my ICOM IC7300 with its built-in 3-to-1 autofare, and see which bands I can really talk on, or if I need a more substantial antenna matching unit. So tomorrow's going to be a ham radio adventure day.
That's awesome. Way to pay it forward. Helping out new hams. That's outstanding. Great to hear. Thanks again, Mark. Joe, if you're still around, K02RU, I know you've always got something going on.
Unfortunately, Bob, you're right. Thanks, Ron, for letting me know. I kind of thought we might have a little hiccup there. We may have to do some work. But anyway, yeah, today, in fact, I've got 2 guys that are new hams that want to join the club, and we're going to try to use this through. There's a gentleman that may be on tonight. I don't remember his call. But Mario, if you're there, good evening. He's in the middle of Denver with a handheld, and he was able to hit the 275 direct. Working on area stuff. I guess that's pretty much it. It's mostly administration stuff, which I'll tell you what, I'd rather be out in the field with you guys. Back to you, my friend.
Yep, always irons in the fire for sure. Eric, KB0YDN, what do you got going on?
Well, the first half of the week, in passing, I did a little bit of ham stuff. The last few days I've been distracted with the real world and non-ham related stuff. But one of the things I found, and I'm finding it again during this net, I listened to a very long rad chew between a couple of guys on this repeater, which has been my bane because my antenna does not want to play nice with it. And I watched the repeater signal go from S9 plus to not breaking the squelch and back again just over the span of a few minutes with no change on my end of anything. And I am gathering because of that it is multipath, basically, through different areas, interfering with each other and getting poor signal for this one repeater. Now realize I can hit on every other repeater just fine from here. And I did do a TDR sweep of my coax and found absolutely nothing wrong with the coax. And what I need to do is wait for another long rad chew and then go out near the antenna and move around here and there with a full quarter wave on the HT and listen for a good spot, a hot spot, and move the antenna to there. Let me let it break. The other thing that crossed my
consciousness this past week and a half or so is there is a relative newcomer radio on the scene that competes with the ICOM 7300 for being extremely good and extremely affordable, and it's the Yaesu FT710. Now, Robert Sherwood has this ranked on his receiver test data by close-in dynamic range in 4th place on all his radios, which he's got easily 100, 150 radios on there. And while the 7300 ranks high, it doesn't rank this high. And it's priced under the 7300 at the moment. So for those who have that spare $1,000 bill itching in their sock drawer for them to spend on ham radio gear, here's a potential target for you. KB0YDN, back to net.
N0EMP.
N0EMP, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, just information, anyone traveling southbound I-25, I guess there was some kind of major collision or something. We just came through northbound, thankfully. So from Johnson's Corner all the way up to about Medical Center of the Rockies, it's solid stopped. So hopefully nobody has to go I-25 southbound from Fort Collins today. N0EMP.
I appreciate that info, Greg. I'm not sure that I'll ever see I-25 not be under construction in my lifetime. Drive safe. W5EV, Bill, what do you got going on?
Well, aside from kind of reprogramming my FTM 300 for the Aries frequencies, yeah, not a whole lot. It's been pretty slim around here with other distractions and diversions. W5EV.
All right, thanks, Bill. W0RCR, Pete.
Yeah, I've got one thing here. A couple of weeks ago, I was just loading up this new radio, and everybody was saying that while I was coming through fine, it had a funny tick, and the recommendations were to move it from the MFJ 30 amp power supply to, say, a 12-volt power supply. So I did get that wired up, and I'm just wondering how it sounds now.
Compared to last time when a lot of us was taking videos, and actually my video that I emailed got kicked back because I got your email wrong. It sounds much better. There's a little bit of crackling in it. I think you just don't have a good, you're not into the repeater good and solid, but it's not the thing we was hearing last time. So I believe it definitely sounds like that problem is fixed.
Okay, thanks. It would be interesting to figure out what it was that's making it tick like that. I mean, I don't mind keeping it on the 12-volt batteries. I actually have, funny enough, I didn't know if I had them. I had 3 of them out in the garage. So I made a wire up so I can just, one runs dead, I can just plug it into another one if needed. But no, I'm glad it sounds better. I'll just keep the power supply connected to the ICOM 7300.
This is W0BNC, net control for the NCARC Weekly TechNet. Well, good. At least you got it to where it's operating, good, and everybody can understand you well. KA2AUZ, what do you got going on with radio or radio-related stuff?
KA2AUZ, Paul and Milliken. Nothing really. I'm a strict DXer, and we had a storm here a week, 10 days ago, with high winds, like my weather station said 72 miles an hour, and it took down my beam. So other than that, I haven't done anything. I'm just waiting to get it put back up. KA2AUZ.
Oh, that's never fun, especially when they're the ones that are way up in the air. So good luck with that and be safe doing it. Lee, K0LEE.
Sorry about that. I was trying to get in through the E50 machine, and I wasn't able to hear myself back on Echo Week. So I'm just running an HT, probably about 5 miles away from the UNC repeater, and also I heard his voice, so I don't know if you can log in, check in there. In any event, it was last week I participated in a BE session here in Greeley, We do them every other month with the Wars group, third Saturday of every other month. And we also did a promotion for our field day on pirate radio, which is 104.7 FM, and they're very receptive to having people promote other nonprofit groups on there. And in Fort Collins, there's another one here. It's called 93.5. It's also the same group. And if NCARC wants to promote Field Day, they'd be very happy, I'm sure, to have people come in and talk about it. So, in any event, that's what I did last week. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Bob. This is K0LEE, TechNet.
Thanks for that, Lee. Pirate radio, that's a great idea. That's a really great way to promote something locally in our field days for the different clubs. That's a wonderful idea. Thanks for throwing that out there. We'll move on to Bob, K0HI. Almost sounded like a double. Bob, K0HI, if that was you trying, go ahead and try it again. Okay, nothing heard. N5, NYV. We'll move on to Stephanie, K5SFV. Nothing heard from Stephanie. On to Dusty, KL2QO. Nothing heard there. Boy, for myself, I haven't really had a whole lot of ham radio stuff going on. I did receive a QSL card in the mail about days ago. I made contact out on 20 meters, both from my pickup to a gentleman in Australia just outside of Melbourne. I actually made a total of 5 contacts within 2 days to this same group down in Australia with the T857, and at that time I had the 102-inch whip with the ICOM AH4 tuner in the pickup. So it was cool enough to make the contacts, but really cool to get the QSL card in the mail. Otherwise, I've been working and just finally finished up a backup generator for my house. I installed a 4,500 watt inverter generator tied into the sub panel outside with an interlock switch, and most of my time was on a garden shed enclosure that the generator is going to live in. It's insulated with 2-inch thick rock wool. This thing is just crazy quiet. It exhausts into a muffler I built with a 20-gallon galvanized trash can and propane tank. 100-pound propane tank is in an old Rubbermaid garden cabinet that I salvaged out of the dumpster at work. So I'm happy to finally get that all finished up and tested it a couple times. And while I can run the radios off battery, it's nice to know that I can have the generator as another backup as well. So that's been my project. Any late check-ins or anybody else have anything they want to bring up? This is W0BNC Net Control for the NCARC TechNet.
Yep. November 0, Bravo, November Kilo, N0BNK. Rick and the part, I got a couple of things.
Oh.
W1BAN.
Do if you are not N0BNK and you try to call, come again with your call sign.
There was a double there, but I think you're asking for me to come back. This is W0AJM, Whiskey 0, Kilo, Juliet, Mike, Kyle in Fort Collins. Late check-in.
All righty, Kyle, got you down. Throw one more call out there for any late check-ins.
This is W1VAN.
W1VAN, got you down. Rick, N0BNK, go ahead.
Okay, it's N0BNK. I have one thing for Mark. If you're inside, random wire, whatever you was, is anything like mine, and the internal tuner on my radio, it should tune it everywhere. And when the bands are open, you can talk across the pond to Russia, Lithuania, stuff like that. So it'll work. And then I think it was Eric, Pinewood Lake. He talked about the Yaesu FT710. I have one of those, and I love it. I got to learn all the bells and whistles, but I'm slowly figuring it out. And ham radio stuff, other than that, is playing around with a vertical antenna out here, using just a piece of window screen, 36 by 84 inches. You can buy it in a roll down at the Home Depot, Lowe's, and places like that for radio. And that's where I made the contacts, actually. 20 meters was open that night. I had that up. But I have made contacts, DX on the wire, but that is surprisingly well worked. Screen for a radio works surprisingly well. Let me break for a minute. And a new computer, Windows 11, finally got FT8 to work on 20 meters. I switched to 17. It airs out, so I don't know what's going on with that. But I cannot get WinLink to work. It'll switch the frequency and act like it's doing something, but it will not use the push-to-talk or keep the radio. So I have that dilemma. And I'd rather have WinLink than FT8. So anyway, that's kind of what I've been doing. Whenever I take my mobile out, there's not really much going on. So I haven't played too much HF in mobile, 10-0BMK.
I had a little bit of a coughing fit when you was talking about the WinLink. What radio is it? Is it the 710 that you're, the Yaesu 710 that you're trying to use for WinLink, or did I miss something?
That is the one, and I have that VARA TMC on there, registered, everything, and it won't work.
KF0 LDS, Kilo Foxtrot 0, Lima Delta Sierra. This is Norval in Lakewood. I'd like to check in. I may have traffic.
KF0 LDS, got you checked in. Of course, Rick has just opened WinLink up and I accidentally hit the update now instead of update later. Does WinLink have their software updated where the 710 is an option now for the radio and the settings?
Oh, not the version that I have. So and a 1200 would work if it was in there. It's not. So I just chose the 991A, which, it'll do all the frequency changes and channel, but it will not hit the push-to-talk. So I think I have the latest version of it, but maybe not.
So, and I've done the bonehead thing. I'm so used to opening. I have 3 instances of WinLink on my desktop. I've got one set up for the 991A, one set up for the 590S, and one set up for my Kenwood D710. Out of instinct, I opened the 991A, and as soon as bar opened, it switched the radio over to HF. Let me do a little playing around with that. I have a friend in Costa Rica that has the 710, and I know he has it working on WinLink because we communicate via WinLink quite a bit. I know he's using the 710. Let me pick his brain a little bit and see if I can't get his settings. Maybe have him send me a screenshot of his settings, and I'll forward them on to you.
That'd be great. There's another dilemma. I bought a cable. It's for the LDG IT100Z, but I have the IT100. It's supposed to make that tuner work with this Yaesu radio, and it don't either. It blinks when you turn the radio on. You put it to the external tuner. There's no linear in the list, because I've heard of people having to use that to make it work. But in the radio settings list. So, just ham radio frustrations. That's what it is.
Oh, I hear you. There's always a learning curve on the new radios. I know my buddy doesn't run an external tuner on his, but is there anybody else on tonight running a 710 that might be able to help Rick out with that? Well, Rick, I'll get with my buddy and see if I can't get his settings. Like I say, as soon as I can get something from him, I'll forward them on to you. Moving on, Kyle, W0KJM, did you have anything for the net? What did you do in ham radio the last couple of weeks?
Oh, well, I didn't do a lot for ham radio directly. I'm very close to finishing up putting all the finishing touches on my vehicle, so it'll be ready to rock and roll for events. I've got most of my lights put on there so I don't get ran over. Radio's been in there for a little while, been testing out the Anytone 578. And that's been working really well, but it's been giving me a few little hiccups. Been having a little bit of an issue trying to get it Mars modded, but that's not really a big priority. But lights are going. I've got my AED in there, got all my medical stuff, so it is almost event ready. W0KJM TechNet.
Outstanding. Sounds good. Move on to Ivan, W1VAN. You got anything for us tonight?
Good evening, and good evening to Net. This is W1VAN, Ivan. The W0DMR group would like to extend a special thank you to KF0GPS McKay, who went over and single-handedly took care of the the LaSalle repeater site. Mowing of the lawn there, that was a heck of a task to take on single-handedly. So special thanks to McKay, KF0GPS for doing that. And the Red Feather site, having a bit of an idea dilemma, is that I'm on a piece of rock up there. I have about maybe a foot of soil, and I'm trying to get an earth ground for the tower antenna. My idea is to bury copper pipes, 3 of them, in the soil. They're about 20-foot length, and attach a wire to the tower. And the idea is because there's no ground we're at, because it's a rock about a foot underneath, everywhere. The W0DMR group is kind of a private group, but no, the repeaters, what do we have, the 13 repeaters are not private. These are repeaters that we work hard for everybody to use and explore the new digital world out there. So they use the Fusion and use the DMR repeaters. They're open for everybody. And that information can be found on w0dmr.org. Thanks.
I know if I had that particular question on grounding, my two go-to folks that I would probably ask would either be N0EMP or W2MIC. Either of you care to chime in on his grounding problem? MIC, thank you, Mark. Go ahead.
Burying 3 pipes and getting them solidly connected together into the tower with rock underneath sounds like almost the best you can do. And now I'm scratching my head. There is a chemical compound designed specifically to increase the soil conductivity for grounds and radials. And it has completely spaced my brain what it's called. It does exist. It can be had. It is used typically by commercial radio stations, and it is used in some building codes, particularly for commercial buildings, where there needs to be a certain measured kind of conductivity to the ground. That didn't help much, but I will start digging on Google, and that may be enough for somebody else to go, oh yeah, that stuff is called something or another. Back to that. Chemical ground rod. Bingo, thank you.
All right, well, thank you. I'll look up that information and see what it looks like. W1VAN, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate you jumping in. And we'll move on to the bottom of the list, KF0LDS. Norval, do you have anything to add tonight? What have you been doing lately here with ham radio? Okay, do we have any other late check-ins or anybody else have any topics that they want to bring up?
K0MLG, Kilo 0, Mike Lima Golf, Marty Mobile Wellington, with a thought on Ivan's grounding situation.
Got you on the log, and the floor is yours.
Sitting at the stoplight, I looked up that chemical ground rod, and it looks like it is going to take some moisture because it's an electrolytic salt type of deal. And it, without moisture, it doesn't look like it's going to work. I could be wrong on that. But Ivan, I was wondering if it'd be feasible for you to put a catch barrel up there for water and I know you're not up there all the time, but when the barrel is full, you could put a petcock on there where it just drips a little bit out of there to try to keep that soil wet in the summertime. Wintertime won't be such as bad because there's snow up there, but I think I'd put a catch barrel or two and just let it drip on, kind of put a little ditch like you do when you irrigate your garden, a little ditch, or you could really get fancy and put some pipe on it with holes so it would drip, and just let that moisture help get your ground. Is your MLG back to that?
Guys, this is LDS, Norval. And I'm sorry I'm on Echolink, and I apologize. I was trying to get back, but you guys beat me to it. Marty, good hearing from you. I was actually up at the cabin this weekend on the roof, and I was listening to conversations, but I could hear horses over me, but if it was sunny, I couldn't. Is that common? I mean, I'm not real familiar with this.
Okay, Norval, I'm going to have you stand by one. Let's make sure we got Ivan's grounding issue resolved here real quick. Ivan, did you have anything else? I'm looking up those chemical ground rot. That's a really sick deal. I'm curious, is it granite or sandstone, or do you know what you're dealing with up there?
I suppose it's decomposing granite. The top layer is turning to sand, and got a little bit of actual black dirt on top of the sand there. So dig down there about 18 inches is about as deep as I can get a trench dug, and it does run downhill. So I like Marty's idea about a little drip system, and I got it downhill there, so I could probably put a drip system to keep the area wet. So I like that idea. The chemical compound, I'll have to look that up as to what all that's about. So what I have is 3 pieces of probably 1/0 electrical polyaluminum wire that's going to go down and connect to underground these 3 copper pipes. And a drip system on that might be a good idea. It is close to the where it drops the rain gutter right there, so it stays damp pretty good all by itself. But great idea. Thanks, Marty. Back to Matt.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Mark and Marty. That's something I didn't know existed, so I'm going to do a little looking on it too, just to increase my knowledge on that. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Norval, we'll go back to you, KF0LDS. If you would repeat the problem you're having again, see if we can figure out what's going on.
Well, I was deep in the woods, and I put an antenna up. And if the clouds were above me, I think I figured it out. I just need a confirmation if I'm not crazy or not. But if the clouds were above me, I could hear you guys on Horsetooth, and I could even key the repeater. But if it was clear, nothing. So I'm pretty sure that was the issue, and I probably need to either turn my antenna or get a different one. KF0LDS?
I think the atmospheric conditions could have definitely been messing with you, and I think above all else, antenna height when it comes to UHF and VHF is going to be your friend.
MIC.
MIC, go ahead, Mark.
W2MIC. If this was happening in the past 2 weeks where we've been having rain, it is absolutely possible to bounce UHF and VHF signals off of wet rock or wet buildings. If you had clouds overhead and there had been rain, the clouds were preventing the sun from burning off the moisture, and you would get reflections from vertical surfaces. If the sun was out and the sky was clear and the sun was evaporating the moisture off of the mountains and the buildings, etc., you would lose that reflectivity, and then the rain would come, the clouds would shield the moisture, and the transmissivity and reception would come back.
MIC, that's like exactly what was happening. And oh my goodness, it was so frustrating because I could hear everybody. I could hear Marty talking about, going shopping or whatever. And I was on the roof of the cabin and I could key the mic and nothing. It was so frustrating.
All right, mystery solved. Thanks again, Mark. Appreciate that. This is W0BNC, Net Control for the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club Weekly TechNet. Do we have any late check-ins, additional comments, questions, or any other discussion before we close the net tonight?
Hey, Joseph.
Yeah, go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, sort of like another corollary to some weirdness with rain clouds. For some reason, I really don't have very high antenna for 440, and yeah, when it's cloudy out, I can barely hit the Longmont receiver, Longmont repeater, and when it's sunny out, it's gone. So I suppose this is in Fort Collins, to mention. So I'm just wondering what I'm actually bouncing off of. This seems a little strange. A0CS.
W2NYC, care to tackle that one again?
Well, I'll take a crack. Reflections are your friend and your enemy. If you have no path, then you can bounce. And I'll tell a story about that myself. This is good. And if you kind of have a path, but almost not, reflections can give you multipath and just mess everything up. So I used to talk to John, KP0VZI, who was working at a gas plant way southeast of Loveland. And I'm in northwest Loveland, more or less, and there's a ridge between me and that, and we could not speak directly. But I used to point my Yagi at, approximately southwest, and bounce off the mountain and talk to John, and John could talk to me, and I could receive it the same way if there was moisture. So if it had rained, we were in great shape, and if it was dry and sunny and hot, we couldn't really talk to each other. I've certainly had the experience with being up in the mountains and it had just rained, and having tremendous multipath, and I couldn't get through at all. And as the day went on and things dried out, and I was still sitting at the same campsite, suddenly the radio communications opened up. So Ben, tell me your situation when you do and when you don't get through again, and where you are, like in your apartment, or running around the park, or out in the plains, or where?
Yeah, this will be at my house in South Fort Collins, just a little bit west of 287. I'm just wondering what's the likelihood of actually, when it is wet outside, I'm actually reflecting off the mountains to the west and going not quite straight and expected path to Longmont. Longmont's I think it's at the repeaters actually in a building in the middle of Longmont on Main Street, I think. So I don't know. Easier to see.
I would say about 100%, because in North Loveland, just north of me, there's a ridge. And if you're not very high up, you're below the ridge as far as getting to Longmont, which is not only south but lower in elevation. So yeah, I would say the chances are extremely high that what you're doing is bouncing off the Rocky Mountains and coming back over.
All right, that's kind of strange, but I guess that's what's happening. Easier to see us back to that.
All righty, thanks again, Mark. I'll do one last call for late check-ins, additional comments, questions, or discussions before I close the net. Hearing none, this concludes the NCARC TechNet for tonight. Net Control would like to thank each station for their participation. I had a lot of fun. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate all that. We had a total of 27 check-ins tonight, including Net Control. This net will occur again next Monday at the same time on this repeater. This is W0BNC, closing the net at 7:04 p.m. 7-3, and good night, everyone. Thanks again.
This presentation was brought to you by the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club. For more information, visit our website, ncarc.net. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.